Okay, so now we're ready to really dive into the crucial functions of InDesign, okay? The crucial lessons. How to manipulate frames of text and images in order to create your layout. But before I dive into that, it's really important for you to understand one essential thing about the program, which is that about saving your document, okay? Saving your work when you're done. So if you just go in and you have these images here and you try to go to save, okay, with an InDesign program file, then that file, if you try to upload it to the internet or try and email it to me, your professor, or send it off to a printer, these images and all the text are going to stay on your computer, and what you're going to send instead is an empty shell. So in order to actually save your layout, you don't save it as an InDesign file. So you don't simply go save as and save this way, okay? Because if you do that, you're not going to have something that you can send to anybody else. What you have to do is you have to export, okay, and create an Adobe PDF. Now when you do that, if you hit save here, you're going to come up with this next dialog box. And at this point, you want to make sure that you're saving your spread as a spread, so as two facing pages. And you also want the range. Remember, you did this as a 3-page document, so you don't want that, garbage first page. So you want to specify pages 2 to 3. And now you're ready to hit the export button, and now you're ready to save. So remember, don't save as an InDesign file, and don't try and save or upload an InDesign file, because it's not going to work. You have to export as a PDF. Okay, now it's time to start talking about frames. Okay, so the first thing I would suggest is that you create. You're going to be creating frames for your text and for your images. Okay, and the first thing I would recommend that you do is you create one big frame for the whole spread, and with that you can create like a background color if you want. So I would just go ahead and draw a frame like this. Okay, now that you have this, you can give it a color if you want by going in, and let's say I want it to be blue. Okay, I want to double click. That's too intense. So because I'm not going to be able to drop images and text on that. I need it much paler. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And maybe this is the color blue that I want. Okay. Now if I create other frames on top of this, I have to make sure to keep track of what I'm doing, because let's say I go in and I make this one and I make it, pink. So yeah, I go over here and I make it pink, and then let's say I make another one here and I make it yellow. It's easy to end up getting these all mixed up. So the way that you would arrange them is you'd select one, and then maybe let's say you brought it all the way to the back. Well, now you can't see it anymore. So you have to be careful with frames when you're creating a lot of frames, that you don't obscure the ones you already have, because that can then make you really mixed up. Now see, it's disappeared altogether. We wouldn't even know it's there, and that can cause confusion and problems with your layout. So I basically see, now we can't even grab the one from that was in the back here, and so in order for me to find it, I have to go send the background again to the back, and now this is emerged. Okay, so be careful about organizing your frames. Now if you want to duplicate a frame, that's pretty quick and easy. Just make sure that you're on the selection tool, which is there, and then hold down Option, select the frame, hold down Option, and drag across, and you've just duplicated the frame. Okay, that's just pretty simple. And by the way, I don't know if you caught what I did in terms of making color, but in order to do that, you simply select this, draw the frame, and then you've got swatches here, and I double clicked on it in order to adjust the color. Okay, so if you just click it once, you're going to get yellow. If you double click, you're going to pull up all those color options. Okay, so first of all, text, there are a couple of different ways that you can drop it in. Okay, and probably the most important command in InDesign, or certainly one of them, is the place command. Okay, so to pull up that shortcut menu that I gave you, the list that I gave you, here it is, and it's command plus just the letter D on your keyboard. So to go back here, if I do, this is one way I can drop in text. Okay, if I just hit command and D, okay, it's going to pull up the browser. And then, or it's going to let me browse, and then I'm going to go into my Android project, and then, hold on a second, I'm going to grab, I could just grab the file itself and drop that in, although there are actually several articles in here and headlines, but in any case, I could just draw one big text box like that. Another way to do it would be to draw a text box like that, and then maybe open up some text. Maybe I'll just drop this in. And voila, I've got that. Okay, but notice when I dropped in the text before that if you've got too much text to fit into a text box, which might be the case like in this situation, if this box was only so big, it creates this, let me draw it up a little bit farther. I get this little red box right here. Okay. Now what this enables me to do, this little red box, is create a second box that's linked to the first box. And then I can work with the two of them to get things the way that I want. So now I've got a second box like this, okay? Now if I extend it like this, and let's say I want this box smaller, now the two are linked, so the excess ends up in this box here, okay? And so, or vice versa. So let's say this box is longer and that box is shorter. So you can see the two are linked together. Now, let's say I want this to be all bold. One thing I would really emphasize with you guys is that you want oops. Let me switch to some different text to illustrate this better. So I'll go ahead and erase this. And drop in the whole Word document that we had before. So one thing that you really want to be cautious of with text is that having the text bump right up against the images, or with no space in between, can look really messy. I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a bunch of layouts from other students in the past on the website, the new website that I've created for the class, and you'll be able to see where one of the most common errors that students make is with the text. It's just not handling the text very carefully. But in this case, so one of the ways that you can avoid this issue of having the text bump up against either images or other boxes of text is to go into the controls here for the text. I'm doing select all, so that's Command A. And then you can create some space around the margins of the box like this. And maybe to the right as well. And maybe what we want is, maybe we don't want these uneven edges because we don't think it looks good, so we do a justify like that. Although that looks pretty screwed up. Let me see if I can make the box smaller. So, and maybe we come back in and give it a little bit more space over on this side and maybe on the top as well. Oops, that's a drop cap. So we go in here and lower this down a bit like that. And let's say we also want it a different font size, like maybe we want it 12, and we want it a bold font, like maybe Arial Bold, which looks a little odd, but so let's say this is what we're going for style and for the margins around the edges of the box and all the rest. So if we want that to be the style, then what we want to do is go into our paragraph box, which is this one, and click on this, hit New Paragraph Style, and you'll notice that it basically will populate everything according to what we wanted. So if I hit Command A, that is, and I do paragraph style, there it is. So now I can name it, I don't know, body copy 2. And now any kind of text I'm going to create is going to end up with these. So what remains is how to drop in images and how to change and alter and manipulate images. So in order to do that, again, there's several different ways you can drop in images. Again, we can do it with Command D. So if I do that, once again, the window pops up. And I can just go look in images here. Is this where I've got them? No, I've got them in the other folder. So I'll go ahead and drop this one in. Give you so now I've got it attached to my cursor, and when I lay it down, I can now you can see it's off the page, and as I try to move it, what is this magenta thing? Well, look, I go and move this magenta box over here, and the image is outside of another frame, which is this frame is the one that's going to that sets how large a frame I want. This is the actual image itself, and so I've got two controls for working with these two elements. Okay, so let's say I want to grab the this frame, which is the frame I draw or the frame I sort of control beyond the image, and I want to move it, and I want it over here. Okay, so now I've got to get this smaller frame to line up in a way that I want. So I'll go to Direct Selection Tool, which is this one's the selection tool. This one's the Direct Selection Tool. The Direct Selection Tool is the one that actually selects the image. Okay, so I know it's a little confusing, but the idea is that you're able to set the frame you want and then manipulate the image within the frame, and that's, that gives you kind of maximum flexibility with the layout. So so I'll go ahead and hit Direct Selection Tool, and then I can move that back in like this and align like that. But what if I want this image to be a different size? Well, then what I can do is grab it on the corner like this. But if I were to just change the size like this, I've distorted the image. So you see that now, and that looks very unprofessional, and you don't want that to happen at all. That's going to end up making your layout look terrible, and it's going to end up getting you not such a good grade on the assignment. So you want to be really careful that you don't do that. And how do you avoid distorting the image that way? This is what you do. You grab the image by the corner and hold down the Shift key. And now, as you move it, it resizes proportionally. Now, make sure that you lift up on the mouse, because what I'm doing is I'm starting here. I bring my cursor over here. I bring my mouse down here, and I hold down the Shift key. I bring this to make it smaller, and now, while still holding down the Shift key, I let up on the mouse first. Make sure that you always let up on the mouse first, because if you jiggle it, you'll end up distorting the image again. So that's kind of how you move an image within a frame. Now, there's also, let's say I want the image to just automatically snap to whatever size frame I make. So if you look again at the shortcuts that I've given you, snap image to frame is Shift. It actually should be Option, Command, and E. Okay, and what's that going to do? Well, let's take a look. Okay, so this looks relatively correct in terms of proportion. Maybe I'll make it a bit bigger. And I just want this image to automatically snap to the size of the frame. So I hit Shift, Option, Command, and E, and there it goes. And that's pretty much everything you need to understand about how to manipulate images and text. It's going to take a fair amount of practice, but you're going to use these two buttons to control the different frames here that you're working with. You can move this image within the blue frame and cut off or obscure part of the image by doing that. And again, we went over all the different ways that you can create a text box that's linked together. So that should be getting you well on your way. So good luck, and we'll do a workshop together in class so that you can continue to, or you can at least get started on working on all these skills. And oh yes, one final reminder, saving your document. Remember, you do not save this as an InDesign file. You export, and then make sure this is on Adobe PDF Print. You hit Save. You want it to be a 2-page spread, so you're going to select Spreads. And then, since we don't want that, this is pages 2 and 3, we don't want page 1. You're going to do 2 through 3. and then hit export, and that'll create you the PDF of the spread that you want. Good luck!